Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name is Ivana Harinkyu if you're new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is June the 9th. It is Thursday, and today I am joined by our reporter, Paul Gaddis. Now, Paul wrote an interesting story yesterday that caught my eye, and I think it caught several of your eyes too. So we're going to break it down today and talk about it. And that is some comments that the executive director of the Alabama Democratic Party, Wade Perry, made about Katie Britt. Now, you might remember Katie Britt is running for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. She is in a runoff with Representative Mo Brooks, and that runoff is happening on June the 21st. So just about 2 weeks away, I guess a little bit less than 2 weeks away from the runoff here. And Wade made some comments again about Katie on social media. And if you haven't seen those comments, they might not be what you would expect. These comments were actually very positive about Katie Britt. He had one that he said, quote, "Yep, she's pretty awesome," and also called Katie Britt super helpful in the 2017 election of Democrat Doug Jones to the U.S. Senate that Wade Perry actually ran that campaign. So today, Paul is going to talk with us a little bit about this, try to break this down and see what exactly happened here and why the Alabama GOP is not real thrilled with it. So Paul, thank you. I know that I'm not alone. When I read your story, when I read especially the top of that story, I said, "What is happening here?" So take us back to this Twitter comment. I believe it was on Twitter, and what exactly happened there.
So this all started playing out last week, and Wade Perry, who coincidentally announced he was stepping down as the executive director of the Alabama Democratic Party last week, he responded to a tweet from State Representative Alan Farley, who represents, I think, the McCalla area down in southern Jefferson County. And Alan is a strong supporter of Katie Britt. He's tweeted that support multiple times over the past few weeks, and so Wade Perry's just responding to this tweet, and he made the comments that you alluded to that he said yes, and said Katie Britt is pretty awesome, so she was super helpful, and he referred to it as the Doug Jones thing in 2017, which I thought was an interesting way to put it. He referred to the election of Doug Jones to the U.S. Senate and the campaign that Wade Perry ran, so that just really kind of sent some shockwaves among the leaders of the Alabama Republican Party, because here you have the leader of the Democratic Party praising the Republican candidate. And so the Republican Party, kind of like you were, Ivana, and kind of like probably a lot of readers, they were like, what's going on here? What's the deal? And the short answer to the mystery is Wade Perry's not talking. I called him yesterday and left him a voicemail. Then I texted him and did not hear back from him until last night. And he texted me and he said, "Hey," he said, "I saw your story." He said, "I don't really have anything to add." He said it was a good story, it was a fair story. I'm good with it. And so
that's interesting that he said, "You're right. You got it all right. I don't have anything else to add there. I said what I said." And that's an interesting comment there. And again, Wade Perry, he is the outgoing executive director of that Alabama Democratic Party. Now we know there's no runoff for the Democratic nomination for Senate. There is just a runoff between these two Republican candidates. Again, Representative Mo Brooks, who is a current representative running for that Senate seat, and Katie Britt as well, who's running for that seat that's actually going to be vacated by her former boss, Senator Richard Shelby. Now, something that you hit on, and I think it's worth repeating, is the comments here that Wade made about the 2017 election of Doug Jones. So if we have all blocked this out at this point, we've had a long last couple of years. I know that it's hard to remember, but let's rewind really quickly to 2017. That seat, that race was between Democrat Doug Jones and Republican Roy Moore. Now, Doug Jones won that election a lot of people speculate he won that election because of some allegations of sexual misconduct with underage girls that came out about Roy Moore just before that election. Now, Richard Shelby, who Katie Britt was working for at the time as chief of staff, he said that he wasn't going to vote for Roy Moore. He didn't say he wasn't going to vote for Doug Jones either, or that he was going to write in a candidate, but he did make it clear he would not vote for the Republican candidate, Roy Moore. So that's, again, that little trip down memory lane here. It seems like a millennium since 2017, but that is what happened there. So when Wade Perry brought back up 2017 and said that he actually said, quote, "I think the world of her," end quote, about Katie Britt, said she was very helpful in the election. But again, he called it the Doug Jones thing, which I thought was interesting. He didn't use the word election there. And again, Wade ran this campaign. This was not something that he's not familiar with.
Yeah, and just me personally, I think that there's a lot of what Wade was talking about goes back to 2017 and goes back to Richard Shelby publicly announcing he would not vote for Roy Moore and saying that he would write in a Republican candidate, which Shelby knew would not win. I mean, a writing candidate is not going to win a statewide election like that, particularly one, at the last minute, which, again, going back down memory lane, the Roy Moore allegations, which Moore has repeatedly denied, but those allegations came out a month before Election Day. So, and just as you noted, Katie Britt was Richard Shelby's chief of staff at that time. Now, understand that the chief of staff is the top person, running the staff of, in this case, of a senator. So this is not just some flunky position. This is a position of great influence. Presumably, Richard Shelby would not have put her in that position because if he didn't trust her, if he didn't lean on her for advice, if he didn't lean on her for insight. So presumably she was involved in this decision not to support Roy Moore. Now, we don't know that for sure. I say presume, we don't know it for sure. Katie Britt has made it clear that she, I don't even think she voted in that election because, as she has said, she was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. But the Doug Jones margin of victory was about 20,000 votes. It was a very close race. And in that race, there were more than 22,000 write-in votes. So if you look at that and you think, well, okay, those write-in votes, if you trace those back to Richard Shelby, and that even exceeded the margin of victory, maybe that comment by Richard Shelby about writing in a candidate, maybe that made the difference. Maybe that made the difference in Roy Moore being in the Senate or Doug Jones being in the Senate.
Well, and that could be, like you said, what Wade is referring to, saying, look, Katie Britt at the time was the right-hand man to Senator Shelby. Senator Shelby had a big outcome, presumably on that 2017 election, by saying he wasn't going to vote for Roy Moore. So that could be where that comment is coming from. But again, he kind of kept elaborating, Wade, saying, yep, she's pretty awesome, super helpful, and I think the world of her. Now, something I also think is interesting here is that he made these comments, and you had a lot of people immediately questioning how genuine he was being. There were people I know that you spoke with, Paul, from the Alabama Republican Party. The chairman of the Alabama Republican Party actually said, quote, "That's not appropriate." And I think that is interesting, Paul, because we have a system here in Alabama that you can vote in whatever primary you want. You can say you want to vote in the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. It's what we call an open primary. The only caveat there is that if you did vote, say, in the Democratic primary, you couldn't go back and vote in a Republican runoff. You got to stick the course with the primaries and the runoffs. But otherwise, you do not have to limit yourself for your foreseeable future only voting in Democratic primaries or Republican primaries. Now, these comments seem to have triggered the Alabama Republican Party into calling out that policy and saying, well, this is a reason we shouldn't have open primaries. So tell me a little bit about that and tell me about their thinking behind some of these comments here.
Well, yeah, and that's very much something that's a concern for the Alabama Republican Party, because at this point in time, they have a stranglehold on Alabama politics, and they don't want to have Democrats messing with that in any way other than producing candidates that might collect the most votes. They don't want Democrats sort of meddling in Republican business, which is understandable. And if the situation was reversed, like it was, 15 years ago or so, where Democrats had the stranglehold, the Democrats would want the Republicans meddling in there. What could that lead to? Well, it could lead to party registration in Alabama, which would require you to say, okay, if I'm going to vote in a primary, I have to register with the state of Alabama that I'm either a Democrat or a Republican. So then when you go to the polls to cast your ballot, instead of having that choice that you get now in an open primary, you would just be handed the ballot for whatever party that you registered with. Now, I would also think that if this requires action by the state legislature, I don't know if it does or not, but if it did, I would think if the Alabama Republican Party wanted that law passed, they could do that, simply because they have the super majority in both chambers of the House. So that could be something that could be the end result of this. Of something that really Wade Perry, I think, was probably just having a little fun and tweaking the Republican Party as you walked out the door.
Well, and that brings up, and this probably is something for another conversation, because we don't know that this is going to be the case about these primaries, and if there would be any change to making them closed primaries. But a lot of people here in the comments bring up the question that I was thinking as well. If you're a registered independent and there's not a lot of independent primaries, right? Would you still have the opportunity to vote in either, or would you only be limited to if there were independent primaries there? So a lot of questions that could be brought up from that. But it is safe to say that these comments really did irk the Republican Party. Now, there's no sign here. Again, Wade Perry says that he said what he said. He has not clarified on that or made any other comments other than saying that he really liked Katie Britt. And also, he made a statement I thought was interesting that said that most Democrats believe and understand that Katie Britt just has to say certain things to presumably keep the Republican Party happy with her. So again, we don't know exactly his intention behind these comments, other than, like he told you last night, he said what he did there. And Paul, does it seem like he's going to give any clarity there, or do you think that this is the end of Wade Perry's comments about the Republican?
No, I don't think Wade's going to have anything more to say about this. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Wade was still on the floor rolling around laughing about all of this. That one subtweet, so to speak, not this was not something he just woke up one morning and thought he'd do. I mean, he just saw an opportunity to respond to a positive tweet about Katie Britt, and he took it. And I really think it was just an effort to sort of tweak the nose of the Republican Party as he leaves. And I just think that's the way it's going to be. And he's just going to sit back and watch the chaos that he created in one little tweet.
Well, what's interesting to me, though, Paul, and this again might be a whole other conversation, but the Republican Party and so many people are upset about these comments when these were positive comments. These were not comments that are disparaging about somebody's character. These are not calling somebody's character into question. These are not negative comments. These are positive comments. And again, this is a bipartisan comment. So we have so many people, especially right now with everything happening in our nation, that are really wanting bipartisanship and encouraging bipartisanship. But then when we have a sign of it, whether you believe that it's genuine or not, people automatically throw up their hands and not like it.
Well, I think the Republicans believe there's probably some sort of ulterior motive going on here. Each party is hypersensitive to the quote unquote shenanigans of the other party, and so again, I think this just goes back to, look, you y'all have your own primary. Y'all go play in that sandbox. We're going to play in our sandbox, and then we'll meet y'all at the polls in November. But sometimes, sometimes in life, it's okay to have a little fun and poke the other side a little bit. I'm all for it. There's nothing wrong with having a little fun sometimes. And I really think that there was nothing much more to that than this. But you have to also keep in mind that from the Republican Party point of view, Katie Britt, she won 45% of the vote in the primary. She would probably be considered the strong favorite going into the runoff against Mo Brooks. This is someone who is going to be a standard bearer for the GOP in the Senate, possibly for 30 or 40 years. And so for the Republican Party, this is a very critical time to get that person into office and to get someone in there that they feel good about. I think at this point, they're just kind of looking over their shoulders to making sure nothing disrupts anything, nothing nefarious anyway. And yes, I think it's okay to have a little fun sometimes, but at the same time, I can understand both sides from the Republican Party as well.
Well, and it's just interesting that you can cause such chaos by saying something positive about another person. I think that is kind of a hidden theme here. And I apologize for any chaos happening here. Two of my dogs decided that they wanted to be involved with the show as well. So I will let you go on that one, Paul, before they cause even more chaos here to complain about. Paul, thank you so much for breaking this all down again. This was a very kind of big moment yesterday. A lot of people were talking about this. I know that they will continue to talk about it for a while. Again, that runoff is June the 21st. You can only vote in it if you voted in that Republican primary or if you didn't vote at all. If you voted in the Democratic primary, you cannot vote in that runoff on June the 21st. Again, that's between Mo Brooks and Katie Britt for the Republican nomination to U.S. Senate for that seat vacated by retiring Richard Shelby. Paul, thank you so much again. We're going to leave the link here to that story in the comments. People can read and catch up everything that we've talked about today. Everybody watching, thank you.